Today, we're going to be talking about reactions, being aware of what your reactions are in the moment. This video series is about discovering the tools, the God-given tools that we have that are inside of us, and using them to maximize the life that we have, to live a full life, using these tools to do this. And one of the tools we've been talking about is self-awareness. It's like a toolkit that has multiple tools in it. So the tool we're going to be discussing today is reaction, understanding or being aware rather of our reactions, specifically in the moment. Most of our reactions are automatic and unconscious, which means they happen without us even thinking about it. So you did punch him in the face before you even thought it through. You already extended your fist. You already had to receive that one. Or you said something before you could even filter it and think it through. You already said it. That's an automatic response. And a lot of times it's not intentional, but it's a good idea to become aware of these responses. Our responses are often influenced by our emotional state or our past experiences or maybe our cognitive bias. Sometimes it's a psychological condition, but whatever it is, you'll never know which it is until you become aware of your responses or reactions in the moment. Emotional state could be because you just had or heard bad news or had an interaction that made you upset, and now you reacted without even thinking about it because of your current emotional state, or your past experience because I know this feeling. So you just react to it. You know it because I've felt this before. I've seen this before. I know where this goes. And so you respond based on a past experience. Whatever it is, though, it is important to be aware of what your reactions are in the moment. Let's talk a little bit about our reactions to stress. When we talk about stress, we are talking about how we handle pressure. How do we handle a high demand situation I go to work in the morning. I work in technology, and I'll go to work just happy, had my breakfast, drank my coffee, several cups of coffee, and I get in the office, everything is cool, and then something falls over. And now the pressure's on. How do you respond to that pressure, Carlos? Being aware of how I respond. Do I take flight, which is I run away or hide somewhere, no one can't find me? Or do I fight? Or do I freeze, just like a deer in headlights? Whatever the case, it's important to understand how you are responding to stress, because you can then determine whether this is actually going to help you. Your response to stress is helping you or making things worse. Or how do we respond to challenges? Do we see a challenge as something that is going to bring imminent demise, or do we see it as a challenge or an opportunity rather, to learn and to grow? How do you respond to a challenge that comes, and a real challenge? I don't mean a puzzle, like a life challenge. How do you respond to it? Learn and grow, or insurmountable, definitely going to be a demise in here today? How do you handle challenge? How do you respond to it? Or how do we handle feedback? To be fair, when it comes to feedback, there's some folks that were waiting for the opportunity. Yes, I'm so glad you asked, because I did have it in mind to run a few things back to you as, constructive criticism. There's always that person who will leave you feeling like your eyes are crooked, your hair was always terrible, you don't look good in black, your glasses are too big, all kind of stuff. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, how do you accept constructive criticism? Because there has to be some feedback, because we cannot see everything all the time from our own perspective and our own way of looking at things. There is a thing called a blind spot. And most of us suffer from a blind spot. We think we are actually able to see everything, and we have a wonderful panoramic view of everything, but really we don't. But because we think we do, we make decisions accordingly. But all of us suffer from a blind spot. It's like when you are driving and you want to change lanes. So you look at this mirror, you look at this mirror, you look at this mirror, your side mirrors, your rear view mirror, and you still see nothing. Everything is great, as clear, and you're about to make that turn. You put on your indicator, about to go over, and the person next to you, like, no, hold on, no, stop. What, you didn't try and kill us? So they stop you. You know, what's the matter? There's a car right next to us. The car was in your blind spot. The mirrors couldn't show it to you. You couldn't see it in front of you, but they were sitting in an area where they looked and saw the car next to you, and was where the car was in your blind spot, and they were able to tell you, hey, there's a car here, because they could see it, but you could not. Sometimes we need someone to speak to us, give us feedback, because we have a blind spot, and we have to be able to receive it. But as far as our responses go, some of the times we are defensive, or we are dismissive. So we're actually not taking on board the feedback. And before we know it, you don't know what you're talking about. We already thought it and we already dismissed them. Now their mouths are just moving because we're not hearing anything you're saying. How are you responding to feedback? We've got to become aware of how we are responding to stress, how we're responding to challenges, how are we responding to constructive criticism or just feedback, because you get better when you get constructive criticism and feedback. I'm still on that, aren't I? But the idea here is we want to be aware of how we react. But what does being aware of your reactions do for you? Well, first of all, it helps you to regulate your emotions. And what regulating your emotions mean is to be in control of your emotions. They are not in control of you. When you're in control of your emotions, in that moment, you will stay calm and you will actually make a level-headed decision to react a different way than how you would naturally react. You have a moment of pause because your emotions aren't driving you to do anything. You are in control of your emotions. Your responses are not just internal, such as the emotions we're talking about, but they extend to your behavior. Much like the punch I mentioned in the beginning of this video, you responded physically and did something. Now his face is across the room before you could even gather yourself. Being aware of how you naturally respond in the moment is important. Are you responding, or behaving rather, in a fashion that is in alignment with your core values? Are you responding in a way that is in alignment with your intentions? So that's why you hear folks end up saying things like, that wasn't what I intended to do. That was not my intention. I'm so sorry. But if you are aware of your behavioral pattern, how you respond in terms of your behavior, you can draw a line in the sand. You can take that moment of pause. Let me give you a couple of strategies to help you to not fly off the handle or just do that automatic response. The first strategy I'm going to give you is to be mindful. To be mindful simply means to be 100% in a moment, to be fully there. You are fully engaged and you're fully aware. When you're fully engaged, you can see what's happening and create that gap between what is happening and how I'm going to respond, because I can see it. I'm aware, I'm in control of my emotions, I am mindful. So now I'm not just going to respond, but I'm going to respond like this. I can actually gather myself, gather my thoughts, gather my emotions, and respond because I am right there in the moment and very aware. Being adaptable is another strategy that is helpful for not just responding or flying off the handle. It's where you very quickly and effectively choose how or to change your reaction. It means there is a gap between what has happened and how I'm going to respond. And I was going to respond this way, but instead I'm going to respond this way. It's being adaptable. Understanding or developing the ability to manage your reactions will absolutely turn your life around. You will be far more effective at problem solving because you're not just being reactive, you're a critical thinker. You gave yourself time between what is happening and how you respond. You'll have better relationships, better friendships, because you're not that hothead who's ready to fly off the handle in that moment and say whatever. Now you spend all your time apologizing, but you are in control and you are able to manage your reactions. So your relationships are better. You're more of a critical thinker. And generally just have a more positive impact on your environment. So let's take the time to learn about ourselves or to become more aware of our reactions so we can begin to maximize our life. We can begin to live full and die empty.